Hello, Whiskers! We are finally there. We are finally at the last book in the Dark Tower series, The Dark Tower. And we sort of come full circle with this. The mood is very similar to The Gunslinger. It reminds me a lot of that, in that insatiable drive that Roland has to just keep moving forward. And we go again through different terrains, and the wasteland mirrors the desert at the beginning, and there's a lot of repetition, retreading old territory, but it does feel like the story is finally coming to an end. My girl finally gets her story told. I do have a few issues with how it's told, but we spend a lot of time in her point of view. We get to know how she's feeling about things. We get to have her thoughts, her dreams, her experiences, the way she feels about the child that was and was not hers, and was Mia's and was Roland's and was the Red King's, Mordred, who does not end up being really a very important character. But we get to have a lot more of her point of view here, and I loved it. I think Susanna might now actually be my favorite character. After books of hearing nothing from her, she's finally doing something here, and I really like her. Then the Vinegar is an old issue I've had with this series. The fight scenes. There's this great big battle. I don't know if it's the middle or the start of the book, and I do not know what the hell was going on at any point. There was sort of an attempt. We saw a map, and then they were talking about, then we'll move from location 1 to location 2, but I could not get that map in my head. I did not know where 1, 2, A or B was. And then in the fight scene itself, I knew that Susanna was coming from one direction, and Roland and Eddie and Jake were from another direction, but I didn't know what the point of that was, because they're driving everybody towards something telepathically, like they're forcing them through that. So what's the point of coming from two sides? I really don't know. And then there's a scene which just completely epitomizes my confusion in one scene. A very important man is running away, and he's running around the corner into the smoke. Smoke that comes from where? I knew we were bombing buildings, but I didn't know where the buildings were. And it's a pretty big place, so was there just smoke everywhere? And how dense was it? And running around the corner, where is the bad guy? Where is he running to? Is it which direction is the corner? How far away from the bad guy is this? I have no idea. I did not even know that there was a building to round the corner of, or maybe it's just the corner of the street. I have no idea what's going on, and that's kind of why the fight scene, you just move through it. Okay, they kill some people, it's badass, I suppose. There's not much to it. That made sense to me, and maybe this is a me thing. Maybe I am the only one who feels so bemuffled by these fight scenes. I mean, on the one hand, it might be useful to show the chaos of battle, but I feel like if I had eyes, I could probably figure out a lot of this stuff, but there's just too much action and not enough description for me to know where the action is taking place, and I need some context. Finally, would I recommend this book? Of course. If you have read the 6 coming up to this, and you've read all the way to Song of Susanna, why stop now? Go! Finish it! Make Roland get to the Dark Tower! Go! It's definitely one of my favorite. I don't know if it beats out the others, but it's a really good conclusion. This book would not have been so strong without all the previous books. So it's difficult to compare it to the other ones I enjoyed, but definitely 5 stars. Well worth the read. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really glad that this book had a satisfying ending, and that made me happy. It would have been really bad if it were 7 books and then nothing, especially the time periods that King just didn't write and everybody was hanging on the edge of their seats waiting for the next book. If this series had ended badly, yeah. So now finally we've reached the moment. The last book in the Dark Tower series, the end of it all. We know how everything ends, where all the intertextuality is, everything. And I can honestly ask myself the question I've been asking since that book. Was Roland's whole explanation of his history in Mages worth it? Was it worth it spending like a third or more, maybe even 2/3 of that book? I can't remember which one it was. But spending that much time in Mages where it didn't really have relevance to this plot, especially going on and on, like, oh, but then there was another ending with the crone, and that's how Roland killed his mother, etc., etc. Was it worth it? No, I don't think it was. And actually, I think it takes away from Roland's character and the mythology around him at the end. So the only major benefits I see of having that whole big thing in is to learn a little bit more about Roland, maybe, to get the vibe of the world, definitely, like to see what we've lost. Um, and then Shimi is an important character in this last book. Other than that, it's not really necessary, and I don't think it tells us as much about Roland. He's sort of the same character way back then than he is now. He's not that very different. And we get to like why he started going after the tower, but it's essentially a pink ball told him so. So it's not really a good reason either. So there's no reason to have it there. His gentleness with Shimi, you could have done that without telling me the backstory. I would still have thought him sweet for being gentle with this mute child, for having, I think it almost would have made Shimi's character stronger and Roland's relationship to him stronger. The mythology of Roland is sort of this man who has been searching for the tower for so long. He has evaded death because that's how strong his drive is. And we learn that he's probably older than 200 years old. And the thing is, in all that time, I feel like there should have been a lot more characters, because what this major story does, is in the ending, when Roland is walking towards the tower, he yells out all the people that he's lost. We know that he carries his grief with him to the tower of all the people that have died helping him to achieve this goal. And he yells out all the names of all the people that he's lost. And it's all the people from Mages who died, and then the people from our story, the Dark Tower series, who died, or that he's lost. Even that old woman who he like met for one dinner and gave him a cross, she gets to be noted, and there's nobody else. Apparently, in the 200 years since Roland was 15 to now, nothing of importance happened. And that really bothered me, because my headcanon was that Roland had lived thousands of adventures, met hundreds of people, and had built relationships and broken them, and his grief was like hundreds of loved ones, and he just has to keep going because now all of their sacrifices have to be worth it. And it's almost as if the quartet sacrificed more than Roland did. I mean, he lost 2 people, and the quartet lost 3 or 4, and I just don't like that we've made Roland's mythology so small. It was like Mages was the important people, and then the new quartet was the important people, and nothing of importance happened in the 200 years in between, and I hate that. I feel like Roland should have a lot more history, a lot more story to him, and some growth, because apparently he was just the same person during all that time, and nobody affected him, and yeah, just nothing of importance happened. I hate that. And there's so much foreshadowing put on the crone that forced him to kill his mother, and she's going to have revenge, and she never comes back. So like, why? What was the point? There was no further intertextuality linking back to Mages that I could see. So I kind of feel like that was useless, and I wanted it to mean something, and it didn't. And as I said, I really hate that it made Roland feel small. It made the world feel small. As if, like, Magus was very much the same as the Kala, and like, is there not more to this world? Aren't there more people that could have affected Roland? Or like, I don't know. I think I've made my point. I'm just repeating myself now, but yeah, I was disappointed that that was all that build up and all that backstory led up to. It's just kind of unimportant. Briefly, the plot. Um, so we escape from New York and we go into Thunderclap, which is like a land of endless dark. And there's this campus of breakers, and they're telepaths that the Red King has, the Crimson King has got to break the beams. So they're attacking the beams telepathically and destroying the Dark Tower by doing that. And we have the fight scene there, the horrible fight scene where they take the campus and kill everybody, and it's just. So that's sort of the build up. Now the Dark Tower is sort of safe. We just have to save Stephen King's life because he's going to be a dumbass. And yeah, that's that. I feel like sort of that was just kind of getting to the point. That was not really, there wasn't a lot of tension. It wasn't really necessary. Like, we sort of know the Dark Tower is not going to fall. So, and the characters there, we go into their backstories a lot. And it also just didn't feel necessary because it didn't matter. Like, it's cool that this guy had a life. I assumed he did. But yeah. So that all was a bit unnecessary. And then we get to sort of where the character and the plot intermix. So I'm going to go over to characters for this section, because it's sort of as if every character, just before they die, gets one final mission with Roland. A short while where they can build up their relationship, and where we get a thorough farewell to them. So yeah, I'm gonna do it then by character, the rest of the plot, because the rest of the plot, they are still moving towards the tower, but it feels very much character driven. And the focus is on the characters and their relationship to Roland and to each other. So, characters. So, as I said, everybody gets their final farewell, except Eddie. Um, he dies just after the Battle of Thunderclap, and I sort of felt weird about his death. We hadn't spent a lot of time with him. He was just sort of comic relief for the book so far, so we didn't really get that emotional connection. It sort of felt, yeah, obviously he's the least useful one, he can go now. And I feel like the character deserved more. We also didn't spend a lot of time in his point of view, so in comparison to the other characters who really didn't get that much attention before he died. So yeah, just the farewell felt a bit odd. And while he's laying dying, we're spending time with Jake walking through the deserted campus and stuff, and it's just, you're already setting up like Jake's character moments before Eddie has even said goodbye. Eddie does say goodbye. Susanna and Jake and Roland really mourn him. And then we have to move on very quickly to the next part, which is Jake's part, which I felt was handled really well. Jake actually also really felt like a character to me. They're back in New York trying to save Stephen King because he's about to get hit by the car and die in the car crash. And yeah, Jake throws his body in front of Stephen King and takes the brunt of the impact from a drunk driver. And so in real life, Stephen King had a car accident from a drunk driver where he broke like his hip and his things. In this story, the reason Stephen King still gets the same injuries, but the reason he doesn't die, the reason the car crash isn't fatal, is because Jake's little body took the brunt of the attack. And on our way there, we get a lot of character moments between him and Roland. We get him calling Roland father a lot, and their father-son dynamic is really strong, and it's like perfect. And Roland is happy for the first time because he has a son, and he never had a son before. He never had anybody he cared for this much before. And Roland didn't let him die this time. Roland failed to jump in front of him and Jake acted for himself. He chose this death. And I like that. And Roland has to hypnotize the drunk driver and Stephen King into not remembering the crash as it actually happened. And while he's doing that, Jake is laying dying. And there's a lot of emphasis on Roland saying, I don't want to be spending time with these idiots I hate. I want to be with my son. And yeah, Jake dies, unfortunately, while Roland is gone. And here we get a lot of deeper characterization for Roland, because we mourn Jake with him. It was really emotional. I think, yeah, this was really an emotional part of the book. It really did Jake justice, and the love that all the other characters had for him. It was really done justice in this part of the book. And then we can sort of go into Roland here. Although this is not his final mission with himself and his instant dying, but he really mourns Jake because this was the deepest and most meaningful and important relationship he has ever had. It is his son. And I think here I sort of began to realize what a good representation or role model Roland's character is to masculinity. Because he's obviously strong and independent and a warrior and sexual and steadfast and determined and everything a man should be. But here he also cries a lot, and he mourns, and he really feels. And he suffers the loss of that emotional bond, and then afterwards he sort of clings to Susanna and to Oi, because that's all he has left, and he needs bonds with people. He needs other people in his life. So I think that was just like really, really beautiful to me, and I really like Roland now after that. So I think for the first time, Roland is not just this unstoppable force. He's sort of still an unstoppable force, but with a human soul under that. And we come to really care for Roland, even as he respects like other people's choices going forward. Even when Susanna chooses to leave him, he mourns her, but he respects her decision. And I think, yeah, he's just a really good man, and I respect Roland a lot more after seeing him mourn. I mean, it's one thing to be a badass, it's another thing to be a badass with a heart. I think that's more powerful, more special. So then, after Jake's death, Roland is left with Susanna and Oi. Oi takes the death obviously very hard. Jake gives Oi some final tasks to do to protect Roland, so he doesn't speak as much anymore, if ever. And when we get back to Susanna, we spend a lot of time in her point of view, because now she's mourning her husband and her brother. Well, not biological, but you know, she's mourning Jake and Eddie, and she really doesn't have much left to live for. She promised she'd help Roland get to the tower because Eddie told her so, but she doesn't really care for it anymore. She lost the only thing she truly cared about. And she's just keeping going, and I think that really shows her strength, that she's just doing the next right thing. She's just doing whatever she can, whatever is right, even though she really does not have the strength to carry on anymore. She's freezing, and she suffers a lot. She suffers a lot during the last couple of chapters we have with her, because she's missing her husband, she's mourning their deaths, she's freezing, she's walking through the wasteland, she's starving, she has her child following her. It's a mess inside of her, but she just keeps going, and that strength is really admirable. And then she finally gets her happily ever after, and I think I'm so glad that she got that ending. I'm so glad that she got her happily ever after. After all that suffering, she starts having dreams of Christmas time, of Eddie and Jake waiting for her in Times Square with the perfect cup of hot chocolate, and they're telling her to come. And then she wakes up and she realizes it's a dream, and this happens time and time again until she finally reaches that. She finally gets the opportunity to, through some magical stuff, go into another world, another version of New York, where Eddie exists and Jake is his brother, and she meets up with them and they get to live happily ever after in New York as a family, and it's really beautiful. So that's Susanna. I do, however, have one issue with the last parts of her book, of her story. So Roland and Susanna meet Dandelo. So he's like a vampire of emotion. So he makes you laugh and then he eats your laughter, and it almost kills you. And at first he draws in both Roland and Susanna with like his happy demeanor, and I'm just a cranky old man, and he's really funny and everything. But Susanna keeps feeling like, why is this man lying to me? Something is off here. And she keeps having those intuitions, and it's built up really well that Roland is being completely taken in by this stranger and is being completely fooled by the facade. And Susanna is noticing it. Her intuition is working, helping her survive this. And she was supposed to be the hero of the story. She was supposed to see through the glamour, see through Dandelo's lies, and save Roland's life. She was supposed to be the hero. And just as she was about to figure it out, a literal note from the author, a deus ex machina, a little note appears on a towel in the bathroom from Stephen King saying, think about Dandelo, think about it, like, so her victory, her heroic moment is stolen away, literally by a note from the author. Why can you not just let her be the hero she is? It's difficult for her to shine with all these men around her who are also good, great men and great warriors. But here she has the intuition. It was laid out perfectly. Literally all the stepping stones was there. She did everything perfectly, and at the last moment they just snatched her victory away from her and gave Stephen King, or coincidence, the victory, and made Stephen King the hero. And I was just like, but Susanna could have done this. She had every tool available to her to be the hero, finally, to save Roland and to be the reason that he actually makes it to the Dark Tower. And that's stolen from her. Why would you take her fire? I was very deeply disappointed by that. So, yeah, I'm rewriting this. In my headcanon, Susanna, that bullshit note was not there. And Susanna figured this out because she was this damn close to figuring it out. She had so many clues. This man is lying to me. That's not right. That's suspicious. She had so many clues. She was all the way there. She was suspicious. Her intuition was right. And then you just take it? You just leave her a note with the answer on it when she's that damn close? I really hated that. So, yeah. Susanna gets her happily ever after, even though she doesn't get to be the hero. Eddie gets his moment in the sun with Blaine, the mono. Jake gets to save Stephen King's life. Roland is the ultimate hero, obviously. And Susanna, she gets an author's note saying, actually, don't let the girl take the glory. Let some deus ex machina take it from her. Yeah, just... no. I hated that so damn much. I cannot even... Why is that not the vinegar of this story? I don't know, at least that made me feel something. I think the fighting was just sort of bad writing. This is a bad choice, and I don't know what motivated this choice in the text. It doesn't make sense to me. Okay, so the ending. Charles Roland to the Dark Tower came. I think it is fitting that Roland climbed the tower alone. Obviously, when he reaches the tower, we learn that there is no other way. And I think the ending is very melancholy. Susanna, Eddie, and Jake get their happily ever after. And in my heart of hearts, I believe that all the other people Roland affected would also get sort of their happily ever after. The people from Majors, Shimi and Susanna and everybody else, Cuthbert and Ellen, I'm sure they also get their happily ever after. And maybe Roland, the man with the insatiable drive, who has carried with him all this grief of people he honestly let die in pursuit of the tower. He kind of just is stuck in this forever. And I feel sorry for him. I do. Because I do think he's a good man. But I also feel like it's sort of right. Would it have been less right if the Dark Tower was some sort of paradise? Not necessarily. It would have been fine, but I think that this more fits the story, more fits the world. That the wheel turns and things keep happening as they continue to happen. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came, and his journey continues. Yeah. So, Whiskers, let me know what you guys think, especially about the Susanna thing. Please tell me I'm not alone in this. She would have had it. So yeah, let me know what you think about that. And yeah, if you have read the whole series, tell me. Tell me if you thought the ending was satisfying. I mean, I feel like this series should deserve more credit. I don't know. Like, I haven't seen the movie, but I know that the movie is sort of Roland's next life and plays off mostly in New York. And I feel like that's a shame. I think the story has a lot to it, and I think more people deserve to read it. But it is complicated. So I don't know. Okay. Bye.